welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined as always with my co-hosts Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And guys, we know some people haven't checked out or they've checked out during the off season, but it's time to get in season mode as UAB football kicks off. Actually, 3 weeks from today, Thursday, August. Today is Thursday, August the 8th. 3 weeks from now, UAB will be kicking off their football season against Alcorn State. Um, so it's offensive preview time. This is going to be a loaded episode. I don't know anywhere else, audio or video form, you're going to get this detailed breakdown of either offensive unit or defensive unit, special teams next week, anywhere else other than the Blazer Victory podcast. So if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel at Blazer Pod, definitely click that link in your audio description and subscribe to where you don't miss any future episodes of the Blazer Victory podcast. Again, that's at Blazer Pod. And also keep an eye out on our Twitter. It's the same at BlazerPod, twitter.com/BlazerPod. We're going to be getting some poll questions out for our listeners to respond to on Twitter, or X, as they call it now. Again, twitter.com/BlazerPod. Keep an eye out for early, probably Monday, we'll start rolling those questions out, because a couple weeks from now, we're going to have a preseason award show that I'm super excited. Jimmy hit us up with this idea to start this year. So this is going to be fun times on the Blazer Victory podcast. But again, subscribe on at BlazerPod for YouTube, and Twitter or X at BlazerPod, to where you don't miss those questions. But I know we do have a lot of listeners on Facebook, so we'll definitely try to share those poll questions on Facebook as well. But also, if you guys missed the announcement last week, this episode of the Blazer Victory podcast is brought to you by Cahaba Brewing Company again. So shout out to Cahaba on renewing our partnership for a second year. We're super excited. We've already announced our first watch party at Cahaba. It's going to be September 14th as UAB travels up to Arkansas to take on the Razorbacks. There's going to be a link in your show description to where you can check out more information about the details of that event. But please help us spread the word and say if you're going or if you're interested. That just helps us gauge kind of numbers about what we can prepare for at Cahaba. But again, that's September 14th. But this episode, we're going to spotlight their newest beer at Cahaba Brewing Company. It's the River Haze, super smooth, juicy IPA, a hazy IPA. It's really good, guys. If you haven't had a chance to go down to the tap room or go to your local supermarket to pick up a 6-pack, a really phenomenal beer. I'm so excited that Cahaba is adding this beer to their core list of beers available year round. So if you have not tried it out, go to the tap room or go to cahababrewing.com, and it'll let you know what's on tap and what kind of drink selections. Because, hey, Darian, I know you're not the biggest beer guy, but those mixed drinks that Cahaba whips up, there's some good drinks, right?
Yeah, it's the best thing about them is that you and your significant other, whether that's a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, they will enjoy them. Like my wife enjoyed them, and it's cool when your partner can sit back and chill and watch the game with you, and you can get them a little loose with the mixed drinks, and y'all all cheering for UAB sports at the same time. Everybody's having a good time. So yes, trust me. I can't think of the names. I probably can't think of the names because I was enjoying myself too much, and I got it evades me right now. But whatever mixed drink I got was really good. I know Jimmy got a couple too, and it's really good. I like it.
Definitely. And hey, that Cahaba Berry Lemonade is one of my go-tos. Like if I'm not going to want a beer, or if I've had enough
There we
beer,
go.
then
There
I'll
we
get
go.
that.
Now
Or
you're talking my language.
there's a punch too. But also, hey, there's non-alcoholic options too. If you're listening to this, hey, just alcohol is not my thing, hey, come on down and watch the game September 14th. Hey, there are options. The current at Cahaba, their food truck is phenomenal. We've all talked about that before. So come on down and have a good time with us. But if you're wanting to go down before the watch party, let them know that you heard about Cahaba Brewing Company on the Blazer Victory
Hey,
podcast.
John, go ahead and clip this for the current for me. Let them know
Hey,
that Darian just send this to him. Just tell him that right here. Just clip it and send this video that Darian is very interested. Is extremely interested in being sponsored by the current. Their
mm,
food is so good. So I just need the sponsorship from them somehow. What do we need to do to work that out? Just send them the video, man, and we can get something going.
hey, let's go. Hey, John or Eric, if you're listening right now or watching right now, let's have that conversation too, because we all three love the food as well as the beer. But also this Saturday, August the 10th, Hika is having their fourth annual pig roast. For those that don't know, last week, we spotlighted the Del Rio with Hika. The Hispanic and Immigrant Center of Alabama. They're hosting their fourth annual pig roast this Saturday from 2 to 6. So if you don't have anything else going on, definitely check out that event at Cahaba. But guys, it's time to deep dive into the UAB football offense for 2024. Y'all ready to rock?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
do
Let's
it,
do it.
man.
Let's go. So we will start up with the big nasties up front, this offensive line. And shout out to Steve Irvine, who does a great job at bhambanner.com. Public, I feel like he's doing multiple articles each day. I got to see him out there last week at fall camp. But he's done a great job reporting for fall camp news. But as of right now, we can go over the starting five that we've seen in the rotation so far. Through 1.5 week of fall camp, left tackle John Darius Morgan, the transfer from South Carolina. At left guard, Quez Yates. Center, Brady Wilson. You already know. Right guard, Zaire Flournoy. That's such a special thing to see that kid back out there. I know he battled, last spring, going through that gruesome injury. But shout out to Zaire. On and off the field about great things that he has been doing. But he was holding down that right guard position as of now, and that right tackle position is DJ Jones. So, guys, that is the starting five that we've seen. Again, that's just through a week and a half, almost 2 weeks of fall camp. But there's still going to be some battles. Um, on the offensive line as we go through the depth. I do know our listeners we've talked about him before, a transfer from Duke, Caleb Perez. We did want to let you know that he has been limited during fall camp this far into fall camp. But Darian, you being a former center for UAB, what's just your initial reaction to that starting five that we've seen at camp so far, and what can Blazer fans and AAC fans look forward to seeing out of this UAB offensive line this year?
I think you touched on it first with Flournoy, and just happy to see him out there. And I think it was important for him at right guard to be there during the spring. Like when you come back from a major injury like that, it can be almost much of a mental impact as it is a physical impact, And Steve wrote a couple articles on him and talked about how emotional that roller coaster was for him and how much it meant for him during the spring just to be out there competing. So you got that under your belt already. You kind of got your win back. You was able to get your just the natural football motions and everything back. And Trent talked about how important he was and how devastating it was for him to go down last year, being our best offensive lineman. So to see him go through a full spring, go through full workouts in the summer, and to come out fall camp really it provides confidence for him, but for us too, that he was able to get tons of reps and really get back into shape, right? And so now it won't be it's not like a limited or a player that's just out there that just now he's just now warming up and getting back out there. So I'm expecting to see a Flournoy at just about 100%. He's been going through contact, and I expect him to see him at the level or better than what he was last year, right? I'm excited about that. I think that's huge for us. and I'm ready to see it at right. I know this is right guard. It's not running back, receiver, quarterback, but that offensive line is important, right? Um, with Wilson, of course, he's the captain. I'm a former center. I think he is probably. I mean, if you look at it, he's up there for one of the best players on the team. Consistent. His play speaks for itself. I don't have to say much about him. He has all the accolades, and that's nothing much to say. I'm glad DJ Jones has been like a mainstay, right, at right tackle. Since he's gotten here, he's held that position down, and everybody has talked highly of him. So I'm happy. Last year at right tackle, we had injuries. We had Badowski. He went down, and then we was just switching guys out, right? And then, it just culminates up to that UTSA game with Trey Moore, and we got murdered because we had so many injuries at that position, man. We was trying to, Moran was at right guard, and, we had Quiz at right tackle. Then we had to put A-Train. No, it was a lot going on that right side, not just because of depth issues. Well, we got DJ Jones there, and he's been there, and I feel really confident that we have a guy that has the position. He's just held on to it. Like, he took it, and there hasn't been a question. And you compare that to last year, we had that revolving door, and it just didn't go well on that right side. So I'm thankful for that. Left guard, Quiz Yates. Quiz has been playing for us a lot. I'm confident. I knew he was going to play somewhere on the line. He's versatile. He's played at tackle. He's played at guard. You put him on the line, he's going to be pretty good, decent to good for you. I'm good with that. I think it should be an upgrade from last year, at least starting from last year, because last year we had Luke there. Luke finished well. He was a freshman, right? But he started off rough, and then he improved a lot. It would have been nice to have Luke back. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want Luke back just because of how much he did improve. But Quez is proven, and I'm excited to see him there. Then at left tackle, we had the surprise with Will Parker. And we have another surprise with Jandarius Morgan, but I believe there's going to be a lot of competition there because I thought Jandarius Morgan was playing guard. He was a guard tackle kind of thing going on. So I think with Trey being there, with Trey Badowski, me seeing Jordan Hall in person, I really like where the left tackle position is. Like when Will came in last year, there was like no competition there. Right, we was just hoping like, God, who do we have to play left tackle? And then it's like, I'm glad this kid, but that can cause complacency. It's almost like you coming in to save the day. Like, I got it. Let me put on my cape, y'all. I got it. Jordan was a freshman. I was just looking on. It looked like he's gotten down to 310 pounds. He came in, he was huge. But now, like, he's slimmed up. He looks good. He seems to have it. I'm really pulling to see the competition there at left tackle. Trey is healthy, and he's trustable at tackle. I wouldn't mind having him out there. He's huge, 6'8" kind of guy. Wouldn't mind having him out there left tackle. But Jandarius Morgan, it's good to see him out there and holding on to that left tackle spot right now because he is unproven too. Like he transferred from South Carolina. Don't know anything about him, but it must be saying something that Matt and the coaching staff have him in as the one at the left tackle because he obviously has some talent and to put him in over those guys. So we'll see. I can't wait till they put it all together. I know they've started full pads, right? They've started full pads. They started that Tuesday, I believe. So they've started full pads, and I know the pads are popping. I know we're really getting to see who's who out there. That's when you really get to see who's the man. Like, if anybody know anything about camp is competitive. Camp is, you're hitting each other. You got a lot of guys out there trying to prove themselves, man. And it can be one of them things to where it wears on you, especially when you get to those full pads and you get to your third full pad day in a row after you've been going shells. And let me tell y'all, for our offensive linemen, there's no difference in shells and full pads. There's none, unless you just cutting, and most of the times they're not going to let you cut in practice anyway. So you, as a lineman, you've been hitting. You just been hitting, and it gets tiring, right? You just want to go to the bowling alley and chill, get a day off or something, man. It's crazy, but
And
so I'm
and
pretty sure
Darian,
you separating the boys from the men.
you love your teammates, you respect your teammates, but don't you just get tired of hitting that same person,
You
same
get
people?
tired. You get tired, right? And then it goes into the season. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't stop. So, but by that time you have a hierarchy. So you're gonna probably gonna be going against the twos or the threes or whatever. But you're gonna have a couple tryhards, rightfully so, and they should be doing it, right? They should be trying hard, trying to get on the field. But you don't want to. You're like, dude, as if you're a starter and you're well entrenched there, I can speak for me. I was like, hey man, let's just kind of let's kind of walk on through. You don't have to try hard today. I'm trying to negotiate because it gets tiring as a lineman. All we do is hit. All we do is hit. So you separate mentally, that mental toughness, and a lot of times that's when experience come in handy. And so I am really the position battle I'm really looking for. I really believe those four from left guard to right tackle. I believe those positions are entrenched. I think those are good. That left tackle spot, I legit think we have three guys can play that spot. And I love that competition there. I felt like left tackle was a position that was very inconsistent for us last year, very inconsistent. But this year, with the competition being there, if you want to hold on to it, you're gonna have to prove it. And I think we got a transfer, a highly talented freshman, redshirt freshman, and we have a experienced redshirt senior. That's like three different. You can't get any three different kind of like personality of players that we have there competing for that spot. So I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
Well said. And Jimmy, what were you're our recruiting guru on this Blaze of Victory podcast. What was your thoughts just seeing John Darius Morgan kind of opening fall camp, leading the way at that left tackle position? And I can't remember do you remember what his injury was at South Carolina? Because I know we were all excited about him coming, but I think he had an injury that we were kind of not concerned about, but we just had question marks.
Yeah, I don't recall injury per se. As it relates to South Carolina, I know that he redshirted his freshman year, and then he played in 8 games over the next 2 seasons, primarily on special teams. But they being South Carolina, utilized J.D. Morgan as a 6-0 lineman in certain packages, and so he did have playing experience at South Carolina. J.D. Morgan, off the top of my head, I believe he's an Alabama native. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So I think there was some logic for JD to return to his home state and to play a bigger role. And whenever you can get a guy from a bigger program at a position like offensive line, you can feel relatively certain that they've gone through the proper strength and conditioning, that they've been well coached up, and that they've got the potential to, again, take advantage of that bigger role opportunity. So I was certainly excited to see JD Morgan choose to return to the state of Alabama and to play for UAB. I did initially pencil him more at the guard position, and so seeing him lead that battle at left tackle was a little bit of a surprise. And me speaking for me personally, I had envisioned Perez taking hold of that spot at some point in time, but with him being limited, that's up in the air. So not sure how much of that played a factor into that outcome. But yeah, I think JD Morgan, there should be excitement about what type of potential that he can have for the offensive line. And we will see, speaking of all that competition that Darren had mentioned, if he's able to hold on to that spot, because I believe that a guy like Podolsky is going to fight him hard for it. And then Darren also mentioned Jordan Hall, who's right there competing for that spot as well.
Yeah, well said. And my apologies. He got hurt his freshman year at South Carolina, so he didn't come off of an
Well,
injury last
John,
year.
speaking of injuries though, he didn't he in the spring, I don't know what the injury was, but he did end up getting injured sometime in the spring because I do remember
That's
him
right.
having on a yellow jersey, like a non-contact.
Okay.
He practiced like once or twice, and then I didn't see him anymore, and so he was injured. But like speaking of guys that I probably have to reach out. I'm surprised that I haven't heard much about Antavius Woody. Just kind of got, it'd be nice to kind of hear like what's happened with him still on the roster and everything. And he was a guy that I know the staff was excited about, and they said that he looked good physically. So I'm like, like, because looking at Steve articles, you talking about guys that's battling for playing time. One guy that I absolutely love, one of the redshirt freshmen, Delano Townsend, who he looks like a freaking monster, and he's been bagging up at left guard. One thing I did look at the roster, and I saw that Barron Franks got up to 290.
Yeah.
Darren Franks was 265 coming in here, and they said he's been competing for that other guard spot. I think he's bagging up at right guard. So it was nice to see that he's come in and really, really went to work. I would. Okay. So no Woody. Well, that's different because I know I haven't heard anything, and it's just kind of But he had that ominous tweet. The little peace out tweet thing. So, I'm not surprised, but I was kind of just, in limbo about that. But seeing like Barron Franks get up to 290, knowing that's a guy that was a captain in his previous school. I forgot which SWAC school he was at. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know
Barron Franks?
Yeah.
It's Norfolk State.
Oh, yeah. And he was a team captain there, tons of playing experience. So to have a guy like that on the roster competing, applying pressure, and of course having Jordan Hall there. So just competing. I really like where our depth is at, and hopefully sometime during the season, Perez can continue to get healthy, and we can just go from there. So Woody, to Woody or not to Woody, I don't know, but I haven't heard much about him, and I know he was looking good. But that's we're going into the deep cuts. I know I am with the offensive line, off-season offensive line sicko deep cut here.
Well, my questions about O-line, we've kind of covered on most of it, is, who's going to win that battle at left tackle. We talked about how big of a loss is Luke Jones. Darian touched on that as well. And then, Darian also kind of talked about last year versus this year, but I always like to kind of go back and, try to think back to a year ago. And as it relates to just like the starting five right now, would y'all say right now that you feel more confidence in this situation versus last year? Because Darian mentioned you've got J.D. Morgan at left tackle, who was, from the SEC, as was a Will Parker. You've got a Quez Yates in comparison to Luke Jones, Brady Wilson versus Brady Wilson. That's going to be an upgrade, another year of experience. Flournoy versus, remember last year we had Brennan Moran. There was, some optimism about him being strong, senior, that could contribute. And then DJ Jones versus some combination of like Badowski and Yates potentially. But Darian, do you think that's emphatic? It seemed like somewhat of an obvious yes for you, that you feel more confident about where that starting five is today versus last year?
Yes, I do, because we had a hurt Trey Badowski, and I don't think he was able to be up to his full potential being hurt, right? So then we had the musical chairs going on at right tackle. We had whatever was going on at the right guard position, and we just was trying to figure something out there. Wilson was always a mainstay. At left guard, we had Luke, who was a mainstay, but he was a freshman, and he improved as the season went on. I don't want to downplay what Luke has done. It's kind of, I remember asking you guys, like, it's hard to kind of really quantify where he really is on the how good he is chart, right? Because we were looking for offensive linemen. So compared to just what we had, I don't know if he was just relatively good to what we had, or was he just good by the time he ended the season. I know that I loved his improvement. But with a guy like Yates there, I mean, he's a proven veteran, that you get to put at left guard because of your depth, right? You don't have to put him at right tackle and put somebody. And then at left tackle, I think I would try to be as respectful as I could and I always try to support the kid. But Will Parker was inconsistent. He was inconsistent, and that drove me nuts, right? Like in the inconsistency, because one game I'll be like, wow, like that. There we go. In the next game, like against Navy, I'm like, dude, what is going on? It just looked like two completely different players. So if we can get, and I guess that's coming, especially coming from we had years of consistency at that left tackle. We probably had some of the best left tackle play there with whatchamacallem with the Packers now. Name is evading me off the top of my head. Yeah,
I usually have the names. Yeah, I usually have it. I mean, he played JUCO, like Brian Vincent recruited him. Like,
yeah, came from
he's
Florida.
Telfer, Kadeem Telfer.
I can tell you.
He's gonna hit me eventually.
Yeah.
Can't miss the guy.
Yeah, man. Listen, but all I know is I never worried about the left tackle position. Like, so it was kind of weird to kind of have to worry about it again, right? But hopefully with the healthy trade, what makes me feel better about that position is that I know John Darius must be really proving something out there because we have a healthy Badowski that he's competing with. Now I heard that it's fierce. It's a fierce battle. So I don't think it's JD's to say. I don't think he just taking it. It can go either way. I mean, Jordan Hall can come out there and take it, but I feel good in the depth. And then just having guys like Townsend and all of these guys bagging up, Baron Franks. We didn't have that luxury at all. Like, if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, we didn't have guys to get like that off the. If we had an injury, we were just kind of screwed. Like, oh man, I hope we can make it through the game. But now we have guys I really feel like can be like, okay, I have confidence that we can win this game with this player. If either one of those starting five fall, probably mine is Wilson. I'll be scared if Wilson go down. But
Yes.
yeah, but just because of how much it's more than just the center. It's like the leadership aspect of it. But yeah, for the rest of the guys, I would feel comfortable.
Definitely. And real quick, I mean, I know was it 30 minutes on the offensive line? But
you won't get that anywhere.
You will not.
Yeah. The offensive line. Show me where you'll get that.
Nowhere, guaranteed. Also, real quick note on Antavius Woody. I mean, that there was kind of the discussion like, is he a defensive lineman? Is he an offensive lineman? But he is currently listed as an offensive lineman on the roster. So that too. But shout out again to Zaire Flournoy. I led to it a little bit. But did you guys know that he was placed on the Werfel Trophy watch list? And that goes to community service. So he on and off the field, coming off of an injury. Zaire Flournoy, shout out. We love you on the Blazer Victory podcast. But looking forward to seeing how the rest of these last 2 weeks of fall camp continue for the offensive line because, yes, there are positional battles, whether it be tackle or guard, whatever. But we need them to play well as a unit, and we need them to play in their best ball at the end together, communicating together towards the end of fall camp. So that is something to watch for. Quarterback. Jacob Zeno show comes back for a 6th season. This is going to be his last season in the green and gold or green and gray. We hate to see that because Jacob Zeno. I mean, we love him on this podcast. And what more can we say? Last year, hell of a season. He ended up setting the single season record for completions and completion percentage. I mean, the stats don't lie. Hell of a season. For Jacob Zeno, and Jacob Zeno is going to be the returning starter. Now behind him, we do have some guys. Jalen Kitna, I got to see in person for the first time last week at fall camp. He's got the measurables, so God forbid Zeno gets hurt again this year. Hopefully that will not be a question. That hopefully we're just talking about, hey, Kitna or Posse coming in during, when the game's well handled. Kind of fourth quarter. But I think, looking at Jalen Kitna, looking at how tall he is, and I've heard he's got a good vertical, he looks good. So him or Posse might be, and don't forget Landry Liddy too. looking towards the future for UAB. But guys, is there anything else that we can say about Jacob Zeno or this quarterback position at UAB?
Yeah, for me, I'm just constantly thinking about like what is the ceiling for Jacob Zeno in this UAB offense. We got a taste of it in his first year of his first full year as a starter, is what I'm trying to say. And the stats that he put up, the production was awesome, as you had stated. And when you think about, we're going to talk about the weapons that he's surrounded by as we walk through this episode. And what is the ceiling? Is this a guy that can really take UAB to the level that they wish to meet this year? Can he help UAB compete for a conference championship? Can he have that type of season? Are we going to be able to see, for a variety of different reasons, whether it's better protection for him or just more experience, and be able to get have more time to get the ball down the field? We saw a lot of the quick passes, the screens, those plays that had big yardage opportunity last year, but we're going to get to see an opportunity for Jacob Zeno to show his skill set and getting the ball down the field. I certainly hope so. So that's what I'm looking for. And you touch base on the competition as a whole. Speaking of articles, I'd love to see someone do an article on Jalen Kitna. I'd like to see some quotes from Jalen Kitna. It seems like Jalen Kitna arrived on campus, and it's like John got some eyes on him at fall camp, but I wouldn't know he's here other than, seeing the roster and then, whatnot. So we'd love to see a little bit more information about Kitna, how he's adapting to UAB and in that locker room and how he's competing in that room. And so speaking of him, my thought was, who really is going to be that QB2? Like, are we in a position right now, if you went back to Memphis last year where Jacob Zeno went down, it was quarterback by committee, is that still where we are? Or if Jacob Zeno goes down, who is coming onto the field, and is it QB2 now becomes QB1? It's not a committee. Like, are we there? I don't know. I think we're there, but I haven't seen or heard anything to suggest that there is a clear number 2. So that's something I'm hoping will be solidified as we go into the season.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is Kitna too, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
from
but
what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've heard, I heard he's been doing this thing. But I also feel very good knowing that we have Liddy at another year.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these guys that were on the roster last year. Who was that came in and did a good job at Memphis?
Yeah, both of them. I think Barker threw a touchdown, then Trace Campbell had a lot.
And then Trace
yardage
Campbell,
on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys came in and they did well for being thrown in that position like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have all of those guys, right? And I just feel good knowing that. Then on top of that, we have a talented true freshman who you're talking about miserables. He has all the miserables, right?
Yeah.
He was the guy that was committed to Auburn at one point in Adrian Posse right there. So we have a lot more depth and a lot more experience behind Zeno. But then Zeno has another year as a full-time starter, right? Just a whole bunch of just being comfortable in the system, knowing your weapons, actually living through and going through the disappointment, having that hunger, right? And just being just another level of understanding. And we'll talk about the weapons. I'm excited about the weapons that he has in the backfield and out at the receiver position. So I think I expect a lot from Zeno. Trent has talked a big game about him. Zeno talked a big game about himself, rightfully so, right? And when I say big game, I mean confident. I ain't talking about boastfulness, right? I'm talking about he's confident in his abilities and how comfortable he is with the system. And I'm comfortable with him as well. I would like to see more variety, right? I think because we have the weapons, as far as in downfield, we did, like you said, we did a lot of quick game stuff, and but I think I would like to see guys run the route tree. We know Amari can do that. We seen Corey Milliner catch some balls. I think he's a guy that can take the ball, take the top off the defense. Buck Halter has the speed to do that, but we've seen him do a lot of the jet sweep action. Will he be able to run a 15-yard comeback route? Like, will we be able to see that out of him? So I'm just ready to see the QBs mix it up with all their weapons, and I think Zeno will have the weapons to do that.
Yeah, well, let's elaborate too on those weapons. Going into wide receivers, I got eyes on Yusuf, transfer from South Florida. I mean, he looked good. I mean, guys, let's face it. You don't have T.J. Jones, you don't have T. Palm. They're both gone. But like you said, Amari Thomas needs to be that guy, and we saw what he did last year, but can he take that to the next level? Can a Brandon Buckhalter be more of a diverse weapon for this offense this year under year two of Mortensen? I mean, there's and Malachi Hope Bennett. We've got some guys, and Darian gave us a good feedback from the spring game. Shanks looked phenomenal. So there are weapons, but my question is, like, who's going to be that deep threat wide receiver for when coverages move up to the line? Because let's face it, a lot of short passes came from Zeno in this offense last year. So when defenses approach the box and don't let you get those short passes, can somebody take up where T Palm left off after last year? Can they take the top off the defense? Could that be Amari Thomas? Could that? I mean, we think he can, because he's number one for a reason. But that is a question mark, that we've talked about, whether it's on the Patreon or the free show. Who's going to be that guy to step up and replace T Palm from last year?
I can tell you something, and we talking about the Patreon. I know you got some quotes and stuff from Kobe Dempsey, right? So I always look for things that kind of give me confidence in different ways. And they asked him, who was the guy that probably give him some problems. I was relieved to hear him say strap hooks like right off the bat, right? It was like strap is the one that can give you some problems. Like it's hard for me to cover him. That's good knowing that Strap came off the injury and they was talking about him trying to find his way back and getting in shape and all of that, how hard. And I saw Steve wrote the article about him and he just talking about the dark times he went through, because this is not his first ACL tear. He's went through it in high school a couple times and Trent talked about how at that time he was our best skill player when he got hurt. Like he was stacking games. He just didn't have a good game. He was like stacking games and stacking plays, showing that he's really like that, right? Before Amari Thomas emerged, it was Strap. Strap was just a redshirt freshman, And so now coming into this year, just hearing Kobe say that means that, all right, he must be doing something out there, maybe in flashes. But if we can get that old Strap back with the Amari that we have now, and with the talent of these guys, that we can be better than we were, even after losing, TJ Tajon to the Cardinals, and losing TJ Jones and losing Fred Farrier. Like we lost a couple of guys, but we can still be better, which is crazy because we saw Milliner come on, we saw the speed that he had. We've been seeing Cam Shanks and what he can do and how good he is on NCAA football if you get the ball in his hands. So you mean tell me you got Buckhalter, you got Malachi Hope Bennett, who showed signs of BJ Hawkins. I've been hearing about him and how good he looked out there. We have a deep room. So in my eyes, when we talk about, I know a lot of times with receivers and skill position, we talk about roles, who can do what. But if we got guys that can do multiple things, I am hoping that we don't put a limit on guys and that we can just matchup hunt. Like, okay, y'all got cornerback number 37. 37 is on the field right there, for USF. You're trying to put him on our fourth best receiver. Well, our fourth best guy that we have right there is Strap Hooks. That's Cam Shanks. That's Corey. We're going to pick on 37, right? And we can run, all of our receivers can run any route. We can run any route. So 37 he's a good tackler. He can't cover nothing. We going over the top. We bombing on him with anybody. Like, because it's 37. 30. Oh, you got number 39 from Navy. You got to pick out these numbers that people don't really wear. Number 39 from Navy, right? He's trying to cover Malachi or something. Like, come on, like there's this bum on him because that's the easiest matchup and we can run any route. So now as a defense, you have to adjust to all of our weapons, and not just because they're playing a role. I feel like you can key in on the role. If you seen Buckhalter, remember they did Rajay like this. If you see those guys and you see them coming across formation, watch out for the sweep. That's the dude, number 9. That's the dude. He get the ball. It's a sweep. He ain't doing nothing else. I remember Rajay telling me, I can't remember what team, and this is like during the Bill Clark era, but this is a little tidbit. He told me, I can't remember what team it was. They was like, what formation y'all in? Dude, the DB walked up on and said, you ain't getting the ball. You ain't getting the ball. He was like, I don't even know why you out here. You might as well not run your route. We know where y'all trying to go. I know for a fact that you ain't getting it. You're right. Because of the formation and where he was, the personnel you have out there. I don't want that. I want all of our guys to be a threat at any time. That way the defense is, you put so much stress on the defense that way versus putting a guy in a role and the defense saying, what personnel that is, who that up, what formation they in, don't worry about him. Look over here, you know what I'm saying? They going Shropshire, going deep, you know. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't want to put yourself in that. So, and I think that's the vision for this. We spread the ball around so much. I think that is the vision for this team, and that's why I'm excited about it.
Hooks, Shanks, Maury. Good luck. Like that's where my head goes. Man. Hooks, Shanks, Maury. Put those 3 guys in the field when they're healthy, with the creative play calling of Mortensen and with Trent Dilfer at the helm. I look at these guys and I've got questions about the receiver group. We had a couple guys depart. We've got some guys that have done it in practice, but haven't done it in the games yet. I mean, you could look at all that stuff objectively, but of all the position groups that we'll talk about, I just like, if you looked at like my level of faith in like the receiver group, like I don't have to see it yet. I just believe. Like, I just believe that you put whoever is out there in the receiver group in this UAB offense, like it's not hard for me to believe that Yusuf Terry will, produce and replace the stats left over from a TJ Jones.
What gives you that belief? What gives you that belief? I'm wondering.
Well, year one, offensively, just seeing like what UAB is able to do offensively and the way that they're able to involve, and I think I want to go back to what you were just saying as well. I think that part of it is that we went through so many years in which it was to even like an uneducated eye like myself, where it seemed like, okay, well, things were a little bit predictable, although they were executed really well. It was a predictability. And then I'll tell you this right now, speaking of the NCAA game, like I've played the Road to Glory like a few times. I'm a halfback. I won't go to UAB at halfback. We're talking about that in a second because it'll tell you like your style, like it's what it is. But I'm looking at the playbook and I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on with all this creativity and all this stuff offensively. But that's a credit to them, that like they can just scheme up all of this stuff. And so, that's what gives me confidence, Darren, is like the scheme, the creativity, even the stuff that is, short distance, the low average depth of target. They were so successful at that last year, despite not being able to get the ball downfield. If you create an offensive line that gives the quarterback more time, and you're able to add that element to what we were already doing, despite that we couldn't do the other stuff last year, that's what gives me confidence. I look at this offense and say, like, put us at receiver. Not me. I'll put you 2 guys at receiver. And I think that you guys could put us in pretty good stats.
Real quick before we move on to running backs, I want us to discuss my favorite position on NCAA or EA Sports, college football, whatever they call it now. It's the tight end position because I love playing online and utilizing those tight ends during those crossing patterns. Like, and we've got some studs at tight end. returning studs, whether it's Bryce Davis, Dallas Payne, Terrell McDonald, and Sibley, and also bringing in Jack Nickel, who we've talked about on this podcast, from Michigan State, who is expected to do great things as well. Like, I have no worries or concerns about the tight end group. Guys, anything else that y'all want to add on the tight end group?
It's solid. Like it's
Mhm.
solid because of so much experience. Like I mean, literally, look at the seniors that UAB has in this position group. A position group led by assistant coach Riley Jeffers. And when you add to that experience and you bring in a guy like Jack Nickel, who did see the field primarily, special teams at Michigan State, but still young. But the number of offers that he had coming out, speaking on the recruiting front, was substantial before he went to Michigan State. And the early description of him, I forgot if it was Trent or someone else. Someone had said, what did he say? Something about like he eats glass or something like that.
Eats nails for breakfast or something.
Yeah, glass or nails,
Or
wherever the
glass,
hell
yeah.
the saying was. That just kind of tells you what type of player that he is. And so I think there's some good physicality. I think Damus can open things up as a receiving option, as does Payne. And then McDonald's throw the ball. He can do a little bit of everything too. So I have a lot of, optimism about that tight end group as well.
Yeah, it's been one of the most consistent groups here for a while. And, I think Bryce can get downfield. He makes plays. He's make plays. Probably right now, if I had a personal favorite, it probably would be Dallas Payne because he seemed to always just make some big plays. You get the ball in his hand. He always seemed to kind of make a guy miss, make another guy miss, and then he's gone for like 10 yards. And he seemed to just improve year after year. I remember when he first came, he was like a receiver, kind of small for the tight end position, and now he's like this physical guy that's kind of hard to get down when you get the ball. Like you talking about, if it was like a guy I wanted to get the ball to on the crossing pattern, it would be Dallas Payne because he can make a play. He's not the fastest guy, but he's hard to tackle for whatever reason. He's like slippery, right? And he's like sneaky strong. So he's like one of my favorites. And I like that we have a tight end for like every situation, right? I would like to maybe put a Jack Nickel out there on a play action, because he's so good at blocking. And you probably, when you, as a defense, you probably try to identify personnel, be like, oh, run coming for sure. And then, man, we saw in Jack Nickel's practice film how he can get downfield and he can catch the ball and he has some wheels on him. So I'm excited. I think this group is consistent. I think Riley has done a great job with just having a mainstay for us. It's not a flashy position right now. It's not flashy like when Hayden Pittman. It's not that, but it is something you can rely on game after game. And it's
solid.
It's solid every time. And it's like you look up and Bryce Davis has caught 2 touchdowns in the game. You're like, oh, who wins the game for you? It's like Bryce or Terrell McDonald has a 47-yard, pass. I'm like, okay, like that just came out of nowhere, but that's how it is. And good job. I think that's a good job Riley has done with that group.
100%. Also, real quick, as we record, Jacob Zeno has been named to the Davey O'Brien preseason watch list for the best quarterback. So shout out again to Jacob Zeno too, on that honor. But this brings us to the last position group. And hey, if Coach Brigham's listening to us, he was like, "Why would you save running back for last?" But again, a solid stable of running backs, as always, under a Coach Brigham, Henley Brigham running back squad. You lose Skull, but it's the Lee Beebe show. Isaiah Jacobs, Armani Goodwin. Hell, I've even heard BB's younger brother has been making plays out there, and Lee Witherspoon too. Like, my gosh, like, is this far-fetched to say that UAB has one of the best running back groups in the nation? One of the best. I do think they have the best in the G5. Just looking, look at Phil Steele, Athlon, whatever. You look at some of a lot of teams have a one guy show, but man, we've got, as those guys I just mentioned, I think that UAB has the best in the G5, and if not, one of the best in the country when it comes to depth at the running back position. Is that far fetched to say?
No. Yeah, I would go ahead and say I don't even think it's a hot take. Like we got the best in the AAC. I'm so high on Lee Beebe. Is like I'm buying all Lee Beebe stock. Like you look at the dude and just look at how consistent. And the thing that gives me so much confidence behind him, I just always go back to that day, me and John, when we went down there to the practice like early last year, very early when he was a relative nobody, right? He was just, I was like, who, or was that the year before? I think that may have, it was
I
one
think
of
it
the,
was the year before because Debo was still here. I think,
yes,
yeah,
it
it
was
was
the year
Debo and
before.
Skull, and then Curry was there. Like,
And
and he was, yeah.
I remember him running the ball then. And we kept on turning around, like looking at the roster sheet, like, who is this dude? Like, he keep so this is nothing new. He been making plays. He just he was a walk on. He had to get his the hard way. And then one practice I went to, like I said, I just remember seeing like, and then he ran the ball a couple times, like you're not paying attention because it's like the threes or whatever. And then it's like after a while, I remember turning to John like, hey man, this dude keep making plays. Like I don't know who he is, but he keep making plays. And then you come back to last year, he gets his opportunity. Every time he touched the ball, it seemed like he could potentially score. It just was something good, and his game is so complete, right? Like he was catching the ball out the backfield like crazy, good hands. He could block, and I'm like, this dude is good. Like that's all I can. So when you see him, you look at him, he's built like a tank. You know, I don't think nobody is Isaiah Jacobs, but Lee Beebe is up there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I think he can prove that he is like the most complete back. If you think about Debo, it was just the running game, right? It was like the running game. When you think about Skull didn't have the size, but he had everything. When it come to blocking, Skull can knock you out, right? It's so funny, but he just didn't have the size, or I would say like the top end speed. He was quick. Lee Beebe has the size, he has the hands, he blocks, and he averaged 6 point whatever yards per carry. Per carry, that's ridiculous. I don't think people understand.
And
So
and that's with a couple called back too, because he broke some other ones that were like a phantom holding call that got called back. So
yeah,
that could have been higher.
yeah, a couple of touchdowns, right? Every time he touched the ball. So I'm sitting here like, if it's one player that I'm probably the most excited about to watch on this offense to see what they do, and that's with the stable of running backs that we have. We saw what Isaiah Jacobs could do. We know what our money Goodwin can do. And speaking of Goodwin, he's a lot thicker than I thought he was. I thought he was this slight build back, but seeing him in pads, I'm like, oh, he got some size on him too. Like he is fast, quick as lightning. I'm just like, dude.
Bro, that lower body Armani Goodwin, I'm like, dude, I think that dude could like bench 800 pounds. For real.
I
Like,
always imagined him as this like slight, quick guy, kind of like Skull, but I'm like, oh
yeah.
no, I was wrong. Like he's a
dude, yeah.
house. So if this group, I expect a lot out of this group, and if this group can really like carry, if think about it, if the offensive line is more physical, start there, and then if this group can just be stars, and then we already have Zeno, and then we have the weapons we got. I'm looking at this offense like we have fellas, like we got a chance, and this is the group that really raises the expectations for. This is the group that have me thinking irrational. Like, oh man, like this.
Hey, y'all come to that Arkansas watch party. We're gonna have a good time.
What you got, Jimmy?
Hey, we've been talking about Lee Beebe for a while, man. I would argue ain't nobody talked about Lee Beebe like the Blazer Victory podcast. I was looking through my notes here. March 31st, 2023. There was a quote from Trenton Dilfer. He said, "Number one, I'll brag on Henley." This is from 1819 News. Steve Irvine. We've shouted him out a couple of times. I don't think there's a better guy at identifying talent at the running back position. You look at our room, we have guys who were not highly recruited. I'd argue we have 4 Power 5 backs. So that was obviously including, he said BB is one of them. This going back to March 2023, and people might have thought, Power 5 running back, Lee Beebe. I mean, they've been seeing this guy, and that was early in the Trent Dilfer regime. That was a few months on the job. He saw the potential of Lee Beebe at that time. Hey, EA college football sees the potential in Lee Beebe. But yeah, he's a guy, we talked about him a bunch, that what impressed me about Lee Beebe and why he's my favorite player in the UAB football roster is how he earned his time on special teams. I think he had a fumble recovery at Georgia. I think Michael Moore forced a fumble on a punt coverage opportunity, and Lee Beebe recovered. But he was out there on special teams getting tackles. Y'all mentioned it when he got into the games. He would produce. He has his entire career. He's underdog. Underdogs are my favorite. Sleep on them, and see what's about to happen. So I'm really excited about Lee Beebe. Outside of that, the running back room, y'all got me hyped just talking about, them, listening to y'all. Maybe we should have started with them. Wake some people the hell up talking about running backs. But yeah, the stories in this room, Isaiah Jacobs, for those of you that don't know his story, like personally, check that out. I mean, just couldn't be a better guy. Obviously people probably know him as the brother of Josh Jacobs, but his story goes well beyond that. And we saw him reaching his potential with that Tulane game. Speaking of watch parties, we saw what he was doing against Tulane. And then Armani Goodwin, I went to Hewitt Trussville myself, so I'm just selfishly rooting the hell for that guy. Know he's dealt with injuries, and just him being a smaller, dynamic back, is awesome. And then Lee Beebe we talked about, but even a guy like Lee Witherspoon. This was mentioned on one of the recent articles, but wasn't it the 4th down play? Was it South Florida? It was either South Florida or FAU that he made like a really nice grab in the backfield, yes, and kept the game going. Like, that was a hell of a play. I loved it. He's so dynamic is what I meant to say. And to think that he's possibly the 4th guy to get touches out of this room, I would argue that you have to find ways to get Lee Witherspoon like in the game. Like, when you throw him in the slot, you got 2 backs in there in certain packages. I don't know what you have to do, but Lee Witherspoon and his receiving ability is going to be huge. And then a guy that we won't maybe see as much this year, Nate Rogers, who's moved from like quarterback to running back. What's he going to do? I saw some photos of him. Speaking about having some build, he's a true freshman. They have him at 5'10", 195, and he's got some arms on him. Like, he's someone that I don't know if he's going to play beyond like 4 games this year, but to think about his potential in this UAB offense is stellar. So, yeah, would y'all say, based on our description of this, last question, is if you had to like rank your confidence in the position groups, is running back at the top? Darren, is running back at the top for you?
Yes, even with quarterbacks. That's saying a lot, even with Zeno, right?
And receiver too. How hard is that?
Yeah, I think it's easily, and that's the crazy thing. I think it's easily running back, because one thing about BB is he's like durable, right? He's super durable. He hasn't seemed like he's gotten dinged up at all. Just like he just doesn't get dinged up. But then you have the provenness of those other 2 guys. People forget like how highly touted Goodwin was coming out of high school, going to LSU. He produced at LSU. I believe that was year 2022 or maybe 21, where he was
45 really carries, 267 yards, 5 touchdowns in 2022.
Yeah, and he was really good. I remember just seeing him, just watching, and he was good, SEC good. He hasn't diminished anything. He just dealt with injuries. And, with injuries and you're getting put out, playing time, and they're steady bringing in 4 or 5-star guys. After a while, they're going to say, hey, we're going to roll with this guy. And he was just looking for more opportunity. He needed a chance to heal up. He has healed up. He has opportunity here. And I'm like, oh, so you mix that talent. People forgot that Lee Witherspoon himself came from like Mississippi State. He's like,
that's right.
Isaiah Jacobs came from Maryland.
Yep.
He went to JUCO. Yep. He went to Maryland, then went to JUCO, then came. Yeah, but all of these guys. So we have like proven P5 guys. That's the crazy thing. But we have the guy that started on special teams at UAB, Lee Beebe, leading the room, which is I think it's really cool and easily I think is the. But they have to have the most confidence on this team on offense because I said, as John stated, I think it's one of the best units in the nation. I think it's the best in the AAC, the best, and one of the best in the nation. You know, I'm not saying that it's top 10. I don't know. They got a lot to prove still. But can it be top 25 in the nation? Yes. Yes, it can.
And as we wrap, guys, just thinking out loud, like there are just so many potential good storylines out of this offense. Whether it's Lee BB or Isaiah Jacobs coming back from injury, Strap coming back from injury, Zaire Flournoy coming. I mean, there's just so many good storylines that with this 2024 UAB football offense that hopefully at the end of the year. There are definitely good storylines, but I'm just excited to see year 2 under Alex Mortensen what this offense looks like under Trent Dilfer. But guys, we are well over an hour. We knew this was going to be a long episode. Next week's episode might run a little long too. But where else are you going to get this deep dive position by position preview for UAB football, audio and visually? There's nowhere else except for the Blazer Victory podcast. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel at BlazerPod. And again, keep an eye out for Twitter or X, whatever we're still calling it, Twitter, at BlazerPod. Follow us along. We're about to have some really good polls that we need audience feedback and engagement for our preseason award show in a couple weeks. But stay tuned, patreon.com/BlazerPod. There will be more content coming on that, more interviews. It's just $5 a month, or you can prepay annually and save 10%. I mean, guys, we might have to start charging more because I don't know. I feel like we're kind of giving it away. We really love our feedback that our listeners, and we've had a bunch of listeners, willing to want to pay more than $5. But as of now, we'll keep that $5 at least for this year. But again, patreon.com/BlazerPod. And next week, defensive preview. But Jimmy, any last thoughts? Or if not, go ahead and send us out.
Hey, no, everybody. do we want to throw a teaser out, John?
I got him in.
You got him in? We got a gift. We talk a lot about Cahaba Brewing. We like to put back a few from time to time. John's got a little gift, a little teaser. Are you going to get it? For anybody that waited for however long we've been on this call, an hour, whatever, you're getting a special surprise here at the end. You're going to be the first one to see what we ordered online. The GOAT, John Duncan, our fearless leader, koozie, baby. Look at that koozie. Look at that artwork. The Blazer Victory podcast on one side, John Duncan on the next. That's John Duncan at the Navy game, y'all. John goes on the road and he gives people hell. He gives the people around him hell. He gives the opposing fan base hell. He gives the opposing team hell. And that's the kind of support that we need. So
that's the kind of leadership we lead.
That's right. Our fearless leader.
Let's go.
Hey, that photo right there, taken by yours truly on my cell phone. We obviously took out all the background, the people, the logo, the CBS Sports logo, and sister-in-law redid it. She drew it and put that together. That's a special little gift. Y'all be on the lookout for us throwing a few of those out to the crowd, or whatever we're going to do. Maybe selling a few of those to help support the Blazer Victory podcast.
Definitely. Hey, and we're talking. Get down to the Arkansas watch party. We're going to have a good time regardless, and we might bring us a few of those. Extremely limited. John Duncan Blazer Victory podcast koozies.
Lucky fan's going to get one signed by John Duncan.
Hey man, I doubt anybody would want an auto, but if you bring a Sharpie, I'll sign it for you.
We'll have Nora sign it. We'll have Nora sign it, and then we'll do an auction. We'll raise money for the NIL for UAB football. We'll be able to get some good players in.
There you go. Well, all right, guys. We will be back next week on the free feed, but stay tuned to that Patreon content. But as always, guys, just blaze.